All right, in this episode, we talk about the recruiting process
and how to prepare for a showcase.
All right, Brent Porcio, Mark Brooks here. We're at the On Deck Academy in Long Beach, California. Pretty cool opportunity. I've got a 3X camp here. If you've been watching the show, you know I've been talking about the 3X camp here in Long Beach, so I'm excited to be here, mainly because I get to finally meet Mark Brooks, who I've done several interviews with before. He has the Art of Baseball. Is it artofbaseball.net?
Artofbaseball.net.
Just like me, TopVelocity.net. We couldn't get the .com, so we screwed it. Somebody in India owns my .com.
I think it's somebody in India. Yeah, he wanted to sell it to me for $3 grand. And I was like, nope.
No, mine was like $500,000 or something stupid,
man.
Right? So I'm excited that Mark's here. If you don't know who Mark is, go to artofbaseball.net. He's got a lot of great content. Tell me a little bit more about your content, what you're doing with Art of Baseball.
Yeah, so I started it, like 5 years ago. It started off just as a personal development site for baseball players. Now I'm really just giving just free lessons or free content with swing analysis. We do how to hit like a particular big league athlete. And we have a 5-bullet Friday every Friday where I just basically share with you the 5 most important or interesting things that I find inspiring within the baseball world every Friday. So if you sign up to the Art of Baseball newsletter at artofbaseball.net, you'll get that. And then I'm also the co-founder of Quality At Bats Academy with the performance coach for the Toronto Blue Jays, Steve Springer, and you can see that at qualityatbatsacademy.com. So
yeah, awesome. And Mark's a great guy. He's really well connected. He's introduced me a lot of good people in the baseball world. Yeah. So reach out to Mark. He's got a lot of good connections, and he'd be glad to help you with what he does. So cool. Well, we're going to get started with the show. We got a couple questions for today. So what's our question for today?
Chris Gent 15 asks, who is more important to reach out to in the college process?
So yeah, this is a lot of things that a lot of ball players get wrong. So you definitely don't want to poo-poo this, because I feel like now when it comes to the recruiting process for a lot of you high school ball players, there's a lot of things that you can do. So the best part is just to make sure you're not getting overwhelmed. And as a ball player, you want to make sure that you take this process by the horns. So the question is, what's more important, the head coach or the recruiting
coordinator? Yeah.
Basically what you want to do is, it's really neither. What you want to do is you want to get in contact with the assistant coach. And sometimes that's the recruiter, sometimes just the assistant coach. He could be the hitting coach also for the baseball program. What you want to do is you want to get the email of the assistant coach. There's a lot of ways you can do it. A lot of them are on LinkedIn, yet they have their email on LinkedIn. Basically what you want to do is you want to send a direct email to the assistant coach with a short email, always coming from the baseball player, never from the parent. Short email, let them know who you are, let them know what your schedule is for the year, maybe what program you play for, the coach, and then you want to give a short link that leads to a skills video, maybe on YouTube that you uploaded. That's about anywhere between a minute to a minute and a half long. And that's it. You want to make it short and sweet. Here's the beautiful thing about it, is if a program is doing their due diligence, they're going to click on the link. Basically what that means is that you're going to get a private tryout with that assistant coach, because they're going to look at that video. They're going to look at your ability, they're going to look at your actions on the field, and see if you're going to be a prospect, somebody that could be a good fit for that program. So it's really the assistant coach is the guy that you want to reach out to.
That's really good advice. I never even thought of it that way. I think just going back to my years, I really found success too when I nailed down about 4 or 5 colleges that I liked, that I actually went to the school, made sure I met with the coach in the office.
Right. Yeah.
So that'd be, I guess, a way to more personalize it, because I think this is marketing, and before that happens, don't market yourself until you have a product, right? Don't be reaching out to these assistant coaches if you're a pitcher throwing low 80s and they're a D1 organization.
Absolutely.
Right? You probably got to polish up your product first before reaching out, but that's a great process to do that, going through that assistant coach. Any other advice you'd probably give?
Yeah, I mean, essentially the first step is you want to give yourself a real honest assessment of you as a ball player. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And basically, you want to take the off season and really get to the point where you're turning your strengths into weapons, and you're turning into your weaknesses. You want to work on your weaknesses so they're not liabilities, right? So, if you're going to be a 5-tool player, and let's say you run a 6'4", 6'6", 60, maybe hitting for power isn't going to be your number 2. If you're fast, work on your speed. You want to make that your greatest weapon, so that whenever you're, training or whenever you're competing in front of these recruiters, you actually stand out. These guys want to see tools, but they also want to see your ability to let those tools translate into game speed.
They also want to know who you are too. I mean, I liked, we were talking about Gary Vee before coming to this. He's a guy that I like to follow, and I've learned a lot about marketing and how to really get out what we do at TopVelocity.net.
Yeah.
And Gary Vee, when he did the interview with you, which was really cool, he talked about, you don't remember that?
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
I know, it was a cool interview. He told you about, get out there, tell your story, like get on social networking, talk about, hey, I didn't hit that curveball today, but I'm working on it. And then, even if, I think a lot of guys get nervous if they're putting a lot of stuff about what they're doing out there and it's not perfect every time. It's not them in perfection, like showing how awesome they are, that's a bad thing. No, I liked what Gary Vee said. Like, put something out there in your social networks that are real, that's really about what you're going through in your process and what you do every day as a player, because I think that's really important. Of course, they've got to see you're good, but once they see you're good, they want to know who you are. And I think if you have social feeds that they're connecting to because you've reached out to them, and they see you talking about what you're working on every day and the challenges you're going through and how you're getting better, I think that's huge, man, because the scouts that I've talked to, they really want to know guys before they invest in them.
Yeah. I mean, having a certain level of transparency, is good. And I think if you're just kind of empathetic and you try to really understand where a college recruiter or a head coach is coming from in terms of bringing on new talent into a baseball program, they want to bring in guys who are going to support the program, who are going to buy in to that team's philosophy. And the best way to do that is try to get to know you. And you could do that through the online space.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think there's so many things they're missing out here. I mean, that's just a little bit to give them. There's like so much to the recruiting process, but I think that's enough to get y'all going. So that was a good question. Next question.
Jacob Anholt asks, is there a way you make sure you get the most velocity at a showcase environment? If so, and suggestions, thanks.
I'll start with this one. I'm going to talk about velocity. Of course, you can talk about velocity if you like, but I think, Mark has, a lot of his talents are in hitting and stuff. I think he could probably give you an aspect on other performances that you were trying to show off at a showcase besides just velocity. I mean, velocity could be throwing velocity in a field, in a position, right? Mm-hmm. But as far as, I'll go pitching velocity, to prep yourself for a showcase coming out of a program. If you're in an off season going into a showcase, going to be a little different than if you're in season, because that's where you are. You're in an off season. But in your off season program, you need at least a week of at least deloading your weight program or nothing at all. Like, you've shut down your weight program. Because if you're in your weight program and you're still breaking your body down, which in the off season we break down our bodies hard, before the next day or 2 days later you go into a showcase, you probably aren't recovered. Your CNS isn't recovered, and then you're not going to be at the top of your game, and that's not what you want in a showcase. So make sure, and I think a lot of guys screw this up, deload, which means pretty much a recovery week, base weight, very low volume of weight, if anything, nothing at all, just active recovery stuff, mobility work, some light speed and agility stuff, some light drills and throwing, to make sure when you walk into that showcase, you're lit up, you are 100%. And then your throw, pre-appearance warm-up is going to be critical, as far as a dynamic warm-up, activating the CNS. I talk about PAP routines. Of course, you're not going to do a PAP routine at a showcase, but for some reason it's in your hometown. You can go hit the weight room right before you go in. That would be huge, because getting your CNS turned on is going to make sure you're firing all your motor units in your throws, and that's where your velocity is going to be the highest. So 2 tips out of this is deload or no weight at all, at least a week before going into your showcase. If you go more than that and you go 2 weeks, guys, you actually might start to go down. You actually might start to lose gains. So I don't want to go much more than a week. And then in your pregame warm-up, make sure you can really activate that CNS so you're peaking right when you get out there, and don't expect a lot of pitches. Be ready in the first pitch to really show your stuff. Anything you want to add even into the hitting space?
I mean, I would just say, if velocity is your concern, let's say as a position player, you're going to try to show your arm set as a skill set. As a middle infielder, you're going to show it from the 6 hole at shortstop. As an outfielder, you're going to show it from the right field foul pole. My advice to you is to air it out. Don't worry too much about accuracy. Just air it out. Scouts, they want to see on velocity. They want to see your ability to throw the crap out of the baseball. So if you're an infielder and you're throwing from the 6 hole, throw it as hard as you can.
That's great. Great advice. So cool. I like that. Those are two great questions. That's going to wrap up the show. I want to thank Mark Brooks for doing this. We would do it again tomorrow, but you're going to Florida. I don't know why you would leave California to go to Florida, but he did. He's doing it. And appreciate it. So check out, give them your two sites again.
Yeah, it's artofbaseball.net and then qualityatbatsacademy.com.
And go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, @TopVelocity, #PitchTips, #BaseballTips. Ask your question, we'll answer it on the show. See you on the next episode.